When the rules change overnight, the strongest leaders know how to rewrite the playbook in real time. How do they do it? Let's find out. I'm Deb Coviello, the drop in CEO, helping leaders like you calm the room and take command of your situation. Want to hear more? Let's begin the meeting. So, hello, everybody. I want to welcome you to my meeting, my room here, where it is a safe space here. But I really, really, really want to talk to you about something that is so important and I see happening all the time. And I just want you to succeed as a C suite leader. The ground is always shifting and there is always sudden change. And I just want to make sure that you are confident and you have all the tools that you need in order to be successful. Now, why does this matter? I giggle a lot, but it really, really matters to me because I see C suite leaders just going down to the abyss and going into complete chaos and crisis. And I don't want that to be you. What I do want to say to you is that change is a constant, and we can no longer have systems that are rooted in staying the same. Now, I know that goes against the grain a little bit. For larger companies, you need systems to mitigate risk. People need rules, yes. But we also need to evolve. So I'll say it again, change is a constant. We can no longer have systems that are rooted in staying the same. But I just want to also share with you with changes that are going to happen all the time, there are risks and opportunities in how you manage it. And I find the best leaders are adaptable to constant change and keeping calm amidst the chaos that makes these companies become the most successful. So, again, this is you out there. I want you to be the most adaptable leader that can respond to change and keep calm and keep the company moving forward. I mean, the reason why I'm sharing this with you is on any given day, there is a war. There is a disruption in supply chain. There are policy changes. There are new scientific developments that disrupt regulations. I could go on and on and on. To think life is static is like putting your head in the sand. So I just wanted to wake you up a little bit. This really matters, and I want you to really, really listen hard. Now, I'm just going to kind of set the stage here of what I want you to be thinking about because I'm going to give you a real story that I have been living with through a client. But then I'm also going to give you some actionable tips that you can do today. Again, this is a meeting of the minds. I want you to have the best tools that you need. So let's talk about change. The ground is shifting, things are changing again. What do you need to do? Well, first of all, you need to know exactly, be crystal clear on what is the change, but also to understand it at such a deep level that you can explain why the change is happening and the impact to your people, to your customers, and anybody else that's a significant stakeholder. The next thing that you need to know is who owns this. Because unless clear ownership is established at all levels of the organization, people will run in a million different directions thinking they're doing the right thing in response to the change. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with you. And mind you, you may think you communicate the change, but as a leader, I have seen the demise of some leaders that trust that they communicated, but they never sought to assure understanding nor verify that the organization at all levels understands how to internalize the change, the impact on them, and what they need to do. And then finally, number three, how will we keep this thing moving until we've navigated fully through the change? So the how, the approach, but it's two parts. It's not just what you do now, but how then do you incorporate whatever this change is into sustainable operation so that then this is the new norm of operating amid the change? Okay, so three things. Actually, it's four. But what matters now? The what and the why, followed by who owns this. And then how are you keeping this moving forward, both short term and for long term sustainability? There you have it. That's it. That's how the best leaders navigate through it. And you might think that you know how to do this, but quite frankly, I find a lot of leaders fail at this. But I want to, before I start giving you a little bit more details on what you can do now in response to making sure you are on the top of your game whenever a change happens. And again, change is constantly happening around you. So you really need to develop these tools. Now, I'll pause a little bit because I absolutely love this client that I've had the opportunity to work with. And if you are listening now, please know you are honored by the fact that you actually do this really well and that I've actually partake in some of these activities. So just listen clearly to this amazing client. So they have gone through a lot of change. They are a growing business faced with challenges to assure their portfolio of business is consistent to be able to respond to seasonal changes, supply issues, change in customers of demands, unpredictability of when customers want product. And they need to do this in order to protect the business. Again, changes cause fluctuation in revenue. And it's one of those things that unless you plan for it, it's going to, like I say, I use this word a lot, your demise. So they needed to go through an effort of being able to respond to many changes and constantly changing out their portfolio and being able to effectively communicate not just what we're doing today. Guess what, folks? We're making this change, but explaining to the people why is this important. And I'll tell you, when you explain what and why, people execute flawlessly. So, again, step one, they do this amazing. They are constantly making change, and the people fall in line and make the change and respond to it. So, again, we're building high performance teams when you're very clear on the what, the impact, and explaining the why. Now, who owns this? I am warning you, I'm cautioning you, I'm telling you, you own every bit of it. Even if you delegate to your most senior leaders in your organization and empower your people that they can do whatever after you cascade the change and the why. Just know that you also have to not only make sure they execute what is needed today, but there is also, you need to make sure that there are sustaining activities to make sure that whatever we change today is going to change forever. So that is on you. You own it despite delegating things. Just internalize that you own this from top to bottom and back up again. And then finally, what they do really, really well, and I've been part of this, is that despite all the changes, we have been keeping very, very good records of everything that with these changes do we need to do in terms of documentation and training and everything else to make it part of business as usual. So again, working with this customer that I have had, absolutely amazing explaining what's changing, why it's changing, rallying the troops, taking complete ownership from top to bottom to make sure it's executed flawlessly, and ultimately making sure that we sustain it. Now, it's a lot of work for this organization, but customers are starting to ask questions. They're starting to ask, well, can you do this? And can you do that? Because at the end of the day, when you're able to navigate changes quickly and you can tell these customers, I can do this, I can do that, you start building customer confidence. And as being an effective leader of managing change, the customers are going to feel that, and you're going to be rewarded with more business. Now, there's a caveat to this. Not everyone can be as resilient to change at the speed of light. It takes a strong and disciplined leader to not only make the changes happen, but to make sure everybody is lockstep and is a high performing team because they deeply understand what the change is, why the change is, and what is important now and what is important to sustain the future. Now, it sounds easy because it just rolls out of my mouth. I just say, you just do this, you just do that. And I've seen it done quite well. But for some of you, it may not be that easy. So what I want to do is give you a playbook of what can you do today. Now, it's got multiple steps, even though it's supposed to be one action. It's got a few steps. But the first thing, this is an action I think you can take right now. I want you to get up from your desk, get away from the computer, and go to a clean whiteboard or large, clean 2 feet by 3 foot post it notes, whatever you have, go to a blank wall, get away from your computer, and I want you to be able to write this down. Okay? I want you to write 4 columns: the what, the why, the who, and the how. Maybe it's 5 columns. The how, what does it do now? And the last column, what are sustaining activities? So the how column has 2 columns. How And what do we need to do to sustain? So again, write 4 columns on your whiteboard. What, why, who, and how, both now and in the future. And what I want you to do is take one recent example, write down what that change was, and I want you to fill in the what, like the problem statement, the why, the who is in charge of it, and how did you manage the short term and long term activities. Get something very clear in your mind so you can say, yes, I did this right. And if you didn't do it right, maybe you didn't trust and maybe you didn't verify that they actually did it the right way, write down what those lessons learned and improvements are. So practice with a known issue. But then what I want you to do is write down a couple more things: a disruption in supply chain, a loss of business, a new regulatory requirement that seems almost impossible for you to meet. I want you to start writing these things down and just take a moment to fill in the what is the change? Why is the change important to you and your customers and your business? Who would be in charge? And how would you manage through it both short and long term for sustaining? And then, lastly, I want you to bring somebody into the room and look at this, because you can draft something, but the best solutions on how to manage change are done with collaboration with other people that may bring in different perspectives. Now, you might think this is a little silly. Well, I got to go to the whiteboard, who, what, why, where, when. It seems like I don't need to do that. I'm a senior leader. I can do this in my head. Yes. But the fact is, how many of you out there have had a change happen and then you became a firefighter and set a poor example for your team? You need to have a recipe that with discipline breaks down a change or a problem into the elements of what is the change, why is this change happening, and the impact, who is responsible, and how are you going to manage both short and long term. You need to go through the exercise until it becomes second nature. Now, I'm going to laugh a little bit. I am constantly informed of change by this client of mine that, again, I absolutely dear and I dearly love. And every time they tell me about a change, I actually giggle. And then I go quiet. And then I start talking through these steps, because I'll just tell you, giggling is my nervous tension to say, okay, how am I going to manage through this change? But what happens in the process is you get rid of that nervous energy. And then I start processing the what, the why, the who, and how are we going to manage through that. And I'll tell you, going to the whiteboard might seem a little silly right now, but you need to be on autopilot, because the biggest gift that you can give your organization is being calm amidst all the change. That is your gift. Now, when I talk about gifts right now, and I just want to thank you for following me through this meeting right now, because there's something I want to give you. But let me read something from the first chapter of my book, The CEO's Compass: Your Guide to Get Back on Track, because maybe this will resonate with you. It's personal. What changed and why are you off track? Because this whole episode is about not having you get off track. But if you happen to be off track and maybe you didn't navigate a change so well, I want to say this to you. I see you. I see you staring out the window, wondering how you're going to meet this challenge. You're thinking to yourself that you're smart, you're tough, and you've gotten through bigger challenges than this, but you find yourself unable to get past this obstacle. Now, there's more to this chapter, but I write these words because I've seen you. I've seen C suite leaders, CEOs go through these challenges and just not having this automatic playbook to be able to navigate this change. Now, my gift to you is please go to my website, dropinceo.com/gift. And when you go to that location, you get a free chapter of my book, the first chapter, either in written or audio form. You can hear me read the entire chapter to you, because it's so important that you adopt a different framework of how are you going to respond to these shifts in the environment. How do you manage through these sudden changes? Because these sudden changes should be second nature to you. And that is my gift for you. I want you to have this framework. But with that, if you found this valuable, please share it with somebody. Don't keep the secret to yourself. Share the episode with somebody else. And with that, my final words to you is I just want to say thank you for joining me on another episode of the podcast. This is Deb Coviello, the Drop-In CEO, and I want to wish you well, much success. And with that, meeting adjourned.